The first question was, I think, was regarding contractors not being paid. That was directed at me. Well, I know that at the beginning of the year, in the first quarter, the Ministry of Finance released about 280 billion naira to the different ministries and agencies as part of the releases for the first quarter from the 2020 budget. I believe some contractors have been paid, not all. And as we progress in the application of the budget, though now really disrupted, people will continue to receive their monies for legitimate businesses that they have executed on behalf of the government. That is as much as I can say about that. The issue of VAT, whether government should consider suspending VAT. If you recall in my statement, when I spoke about the need to ease up the lockdown so that businesses can come on stream, part of what I spoke about was to allow trade, taxation, and the other things. Because government must derive revenue to be able to meet even overheads of its management and personnel costs. We have been dependent on oil, and we can see the disruption that has happened with regards to our earnings in the oil and gas sector. The benchmark we had for the budget has totally been distorted. Now what we have is determined by market forces. How we sell, what quantity we sell is totally beyond us. So there is a major decline in government revenue. The VAT is a component of government revenue. Taxes, either income tax or company tax, are all parts of government revenue. The increase from 5% to 7.5% was just brought into application in February of 2020, all in an attempt to ramp up resources to meet our 2020 budget and into the future. Let me explain even the sharing formula for VAT. Of whatever is earned through the value-added tax, only 15% goes to the federal government. 85% is shared between the states and the local governments. So if you reduce VAT and couple with a decrease of income that comes into the consolidated revenue fund of the Federation, where states at the end of the month gather to share through the Federation account allocation meeting, there will be crisis. I can tell you there will be crisis. So whatever we need to do in terms of rigorous and elaborate and extensive collection of revenue, we must do that to be able to compensate for the losses that are coming in as a result of the downturn in our earnings with regards to the oil and gas. So, and mostly VAT is always on luxury items. Most of the essential items are VAT exempted, like drugs, sanitary things. Basic consumables are exempted from VAT. VAT is always related to luxurious consumptions. So I think as much as possible, I'm not sure I would want to advise at this stage for us to consider a reduction in the 7.5% VAT, because that will really eat into the earnings of the states and the local governments. Somebody alluded to the fact that salaries are not even being paid. So a major reduction with regards to our sources of earning will further deepen that crisis. So I think we must find a balance now to try as much as possible to maintain some bit of economic and physical stability in the system so that we do not jeopardize the interests and the earnings of our people. Somebody asked about how much has been collected and expended by the Presidential Task Force. Let me make this very, very clear, that the Presidential Task Force is not a revenue or a donation collection agency. The Accountant General has opened 2 accounts in the central bank and 5 in the commercial banks for the purposes of our national response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Private donors, like different organizations, charitable organizations, individuals, have been advised to pay these monies directly into those 5 accounts in the different commercial banks. And it is the responsibility of the Accountant General on a daily basis to mop those amounts of money and transfer them to the central bank accounts for the purposes of administration. The Presidential Task Force is built up in such a way that it is multi-sectoral. That's why you see this number of ministers with different responsibilities. We have a budget that we have submitted. When the monies are made available, and some part of it have been made available to the different ministries for the purposes of execution of the part of the mandate of the Presidential Task Force that falls under their responsibilities. At the appropriate moment, we will render accounts. So the Presidential Task Force is not a contract awarding institution. The instruments of every ministry will be used for the purposes of the procurement. Ours is coordination and general supervision. So when you hear that the COVID have raised 21 billion, please, the 21 billion does not come to the Presidential Task Force. Or you hear NMPC and its partners have raised 21 billion. The 21 billion does not come to the Presidential Task Force. Or you hear the European Union making a contribution of 50 million euros. It does not come in cash to the Presidential Task Force. All these contributions are specific project identified commitments. Some have taken upon themselves to build isolation centers. Some are procuring vehicles. Some are procuring the ventilators and different consumables, PPEs, masks, and different other items. But I can assure you, we are responsible people, and we will be responsible with whatever is committed into our hands. At the appropriate moment, we will render accounts from time to time as to how we are faring. But for now, I'm not sure anybody has awarded any contract. Nobody has received any money, except probably for agencies of governments that have been involved even before the setting up of the Presidential Task Force. You will realize that this response started even before the Presidential Task Force came on board. There was a question about 104 human rights abuses, and mostly with the police, army, and the National Correctional Forces. This was asked by AIT. We have established a protocol with the Human Rights Commission. We've advised them that if there are cases of infraction of human rights, draw their attention and file their report to the appropriate agency for necessary action before you can confirm either the authenticity of the complaint that has been laid, or you confirm the veracity of the story. And we've done that. And you can see by certain actions that have been taken, particularly by the Nigerian police, in terms of discipline, where an officer or an inspector with another one were dismissed from the force as a result of the establishment of an abuse on a woman somewhere, I think it's either Ondo or Ogun, and similarly in other places. Actions are being taken. But the reports must first be filed so that the agency would have the responsibility through their own processes that have been established by law to either court-martial them or to do a guardroom trial or whatever it is. But there are processes, and I can assure you that Mr. President is very concerned about any element of human rights abuse, and as long as we remain as a task force, we would ensure these issues are investigated and dealt with appropriately. The fifth question here is about state salaries being slashed. Well, to a large extent, I would disqualify myself from making any comments on that. I'm incompetent. I don't run a subnational government. I don't know what must have informed those decisions. I can speak authoritatively for the federal government. Nobody's salary has been slashed. Out of our own volition, the members of the Federal Executive Council donated 50% of their salary willingly. So that is as much as that is concerned. I think those questions can be better directed at the state governors who have taken those decisions. But I think those decisions might have been taken in conjunction with the people of the state. These are very, very difficult times that require very drastic solutions. So that could have been what informed those decisions in the state. Civil servants working or living in Suleja and working in Abuja. We acknowledge that as a challenge. If you see the protocol that we released, we were even mindful about intrastate movement. We mentioned there that we discourage movement across local governments, but we acknowledge the fact that in metropolitan areas like Lagos and Abuja, if you restrict movement across local governments, it will hinder a lot of work. Because like in Lagos, virtually all the local governments are consigned within one city. If you say you are going to restrict those kind of intrastate movements, it will damage what you want to achieve. So I believe Abuja particularly and Lagos will be looking at the issues of border or interstate movement. Because I acknowledge the fact that substantially most of the people that work in the civil service and even in the private organizations in Abuja, a lot of them live in Suleja. Some live in Karu, on the part of Nasarawa State, not the Karu of Abuja. So that would be a major challenge, but we will draw the attention of these entities, FCT and Lagos, to look at how they can work out that. The president was very, very clear in his mind when he advised that these are the guidelines, but states can modify them to suit their peculiarities, but to remain within the framework of the desired objective that we want to achieve. The other question is what happens if there is a spike in the numbers? Well, that's a very difficult question. Experiences from other nations that have eased up the lockdown, there have been spikes. Even our sister country very close by, Ghana, 10 days after the lockdown, the figures just went up. Germany had that experience. Several other countries have experienced that. And everybody is navigating the rough road, trying to find a solution to it. Part of what I see them do is that they try as much as possible, in spite of the spike, to ensure very strict compliance. Because sometimes, if we can be disciplined enough, compliance does not become a major problem. Sweden, there's no lockdown, there's no use of mask, but compliance has been part of their culture. But we have a challenge with that. If we can just get our people to understand that this is a collective responsibility, that we must work together to ensure that these directives and guidelines are meant for our good, I think we will be able to cross that particular Rubicon. Anambra, I understand what happened in Anambra is that the governor said teachers will return on Monday, but students will remain at home and continue with e-learning. That is the position of Anambra, to the best of my knowledge. I stand to be contradicted. I stand to be corrected on that. He did not say that schools will resume. No, teachers will report as other civil servants are reporting, but students will remain at home and apply themselves through the e-learning process. And I believe if we do that, in most places, we will be able to get a better understanding of the situation and move forward. As I conclude, just a quick reminder of where we are. On the 30th of January, when the WHO declared COVID-19 as a major health challenge of international concern, we had 7,818 infections globally. 7,818 infections globally, out of which 7,736 were in China. Only 82 were outside China. By today is 3 months. Only 82 were out of China. And these 82 were in 18 countries. As of yesterday, 30th of April 2020, 3 months after, the record globally is about 3.3 million infections, with 213 countries and territories with infections. I'm painting this picture so that we appreciate the magnitude of the problem we are dealing with. Within a period of 3 months, with just 82 infections, we are now at 3.3 million and in 213 countries of the world recording infections. Going forward, as a country and as a people, we must challenge ourselves that we will do everything humanly possible to ensure that we apply ourselves, in spite of the inconveniences, to do what is needful to reduce the level of our infection, flatten the curve, and begin to see a decrease on the expansion. As of today, we have only just 2 states, I think, Chukwe, that have not reported. Just 2 states that have not reported. So it means that if we are not helped in the next, I'm not praying, but if the spread and the picture I see internationally is what would apply here in Nigeria, then we must be prepared. I will remind us again and again that the time for personal responsibility is now. And we better own up to this, that we have a part to play as individuals and collectively as a people to ensure that we do everything to flatten the curve and begin to see a decrease in the levels of infection. Thank you. I wish you. What is that? Well, I think that's an advice that I will leave for the Ministry of Health and the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, being experts, to look at the prospects and the possibilities of conducting checks at checkpoints, so that in the process of wanting to do that, you do not build the kind of traffic that will completely defeat the essence of social distancing and all other adversaries that we have sent out there. So it must be a balance. It must be a balance. It must be a balance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SGF. That brings us to the end of today's national briefing. We must thank our partners, as always. We must thank the organized labor for teaming up with us. We must thank the media partners that have been broadcasting into the homes of Nigerians. Of course, our partners, the NAPTIP and site savers, the environmental health officers, and all of those that have contributed in one way or the other to this, bringing these events to you. We say thank you. But a number of messages have come out, judging from some of the questions and the responses. One is that COVID-19 is real. It is indeed not a joke. 3.3 million cases in 3 months shows that it is not a joke and that it is a matter of life and death. Please take responsibility, play your part, and keep the numbers low. Well, in the mood of celebration with our workers, we say thank you. We thank our healthcare workers, the media, security agents, and indeed all workers from different sectors that go out into the storm of COVID-19 every day. They take the risks. We say thank you to you. You are the pride of our nation. Don't give up. Finally, we as a nation must rally together to show how strong we are. Together we shall overcome. I thank you very much for being with us. God bless Nigeria. We'll see you on Monday.
This is Channels Television, and you've been watching our coverage of the daily press briefing by the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, highlighting the federal government's efforts in containing the pandemic. Live from the nation's capital, Abuja, we now return to Lagos to continue with our regular broadcast, and ongoing is The World Today. Please stay with us.